thought I'd tell you another story. I was just talking to Paul, and I thought, God, I've got loads of stories. And I thought this one was really funny, so I thought I'd share it, because we're living in times where everybody seems to be a bit down in dumps, apart from me. So I thought, let's have a laugh. This story is an old one, but it was in the about 1998. Right, Puppy wants to get involved in this one. About 1998, before you were born, Boober, I won a competition, and I won an holiday, right? And the competition was in Take a Break magazine, and it was for the most embarrassing story that you've got. So I told them my embarrassing story, and I got a letter saying, you've just won a weekend away at Hayling Island down in the south of England, and it was on a Haven holiday park, I think, and it said it's all inclusive for you and your family, so just come down for the weekend on this date. So I went down, and when I got there, they had the chalet for us, and when we went in, we had flowers and chocolates and games for children and everything. It was really nice. And then all the food was included, and an itinerary, and it said this is the Comedy Capers weekend. So it was a weekend of entertainment, so they had comedians on, like singles on. There was a group of guys, and then there was people with puppets and stuff, so it was for the whole family. But we got invited to go into the lounge on Saturday about 7:30, and it was a private event. So when we went there, there was 10 runners-ups and all their family, and it was really good. So we're all sat there, and they did a Comedy Caper stand-up comedy thing on the stage, and it was just really, really funny. And they said only 3 people in this room are going to win a prize, and I'm thinking, wow, I thought this was the prize, the fact that we got a free holiday. But they said we're going to read out the top 3 stories, and they're the winners. So I can't remember what the 3rd story was, but I came second, and I was like really chuffed, and I'm like, oh my God. So they called me up onto the stage, and they read out my story, and this was it. So this happened when I was 16, 17 years old. I'd left school, and I got a job as a waitress, and we were forced to wear black skirts, white shirt, and at the time I had these knickers that tied at the side, so there was a little bit like an handkerchief, so they just tied with a ribbon on either side. And I'd finished work, and I was running for the bus, and back in those days the buses were always packed, because we couldn't even afford cars. So I get to the bus stop, and there's all these people getting on the bus, and I got onto the first step, and I felt the tie come off on the side of my pants, and I'm like, oh God. So I thought, right, okay, it's just come a bit loose, I'll sort it out later. But as I'm getting on the bus, I looked around, and it's packed, and I'm like, right, oh, okay. So the person in front of me paid for their ticket, and then I went to pay for mine, and there was a queue behind me. As I got to pay for mine, I felt it come undone, and I'm like, oh God. So I stood there with my legs tight crossed together, thinking, what am I going to do, what am I going to do? Because I couldn't turn and get off the bus at this point, because there were people stood behind me, and I couldn't go anywhere, and I'm thinking, oh God. So I scanned the bus, and it was a double-decker, and right at the back seat, right in the centre aisle, was a spare seat, and I thought, just get to that, just get to it, just get to it. I paid for my ticket, I turned around, and as I turned around, the knickers fell onto the floor, right, on a packed bus, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And I thought, what can I do? There was just nothing. There was nothing that I could do. So what I had to do was try and pretend that everything was as normal. And I just started walking, and they were on the floor, wrapped around my other foot. So I just kicked them into the luggage compartment at the front and went straight to the back and sat down. Well, I'm sat there, and on the way home, all I could hear was sniggering and coughing and sneezing and laughing and people nudging each other, and I'm like, oh my God. But it was like a ripple effect. So the ones at the front started doing the laughing and the giggling, and then they turned round and whispered something to the next row, and it went up till it got up to me, and all the bus turned round and looked at me, and I'm sat in the middle aisle with my legs tightly crossed with no knickers on and a skirt, thinking, oh God, I want to die. It was, oh God, it was embarrassing. And when I looked down the aisle, I could see the knickers just laid there on the floor, and I'm like, oh God. I had to endure a 3-mile trip home. Luckily, I was one of the last people off the bus because I lived further up the valley, but I was mortified, absolutely. And all I could think of is, kill me now. It was so embarrassing. When you're at that age, everything's embarrassing. But oh my gosh, everyone were laughing, and I try and pretending they were, you know, like when like this. So anyway, that was the story that won me the second prize of the holiday. So it was hilarious, and everyone's going, yeah, clapping and all this. And they went, your prize is a 3 weeks holiday for you and all your family, with, I think they gave me £250 pocket money and full board. So I could go to any park in the UK on a Haven one for a week's holiday as my prize. So I thought, oh, fantastic. So we had a great weekend down there. Then we came home, and then we decided we'd go to Primrose Valley, which is near Scarborough, I think, or Bridlington, can't remember. So we went there. Oh my gosh, full week, you eat anything you want, every meal's provided. We were in a static caravan this time, and they had swimming pools and everything. So this one night I said, I said to the children, do you fancy all going swimming? I've just bought myself a new costume, we might as well go. And my husband at the time goes, but you can't swim. I said, the 2 little ones can't either, really. So I'll just sit in the paddling pool with them, it's fine. So off we went. We gets into the water, and I'm sat with my 2-year-old and my 3-year-old at the time. And the others swam off with my husband. And I was right near the cafe. And it was a little cafe that just opened onto the pool. And then as I looked round, I see the sign go up on the changing room door saying closed for cleaning. So I'm like, right, okay then. So we're just playing about. Then I noticed this guy, this man, looking at me from the cafe, like, you know, and I'm looking, thinking, ugh. So I carried on playing with the children. Then I looked again, there's 2 men. Then there was 3. Then there was 4. Then there was a load of them, and I'm like, who's all these men? What are they all looking at me for? So I started to get a little bit paranoid, but because of how they were looking at me, I thought, maybe I just look great. So then I started to feel a bit confident, thinking maybe they're just looking at me because they think I look great, sort of thing. Because I was slim then. Oh, this is so funny. So we're there, I kept throwing my little girl up in the air, like, whee, up and down, jumping up and down out of the pool. And then this whistle. And then the lifeguard is stood over the other side, and he goes, can everyone get out of the pool for a minute? And I stood up, and I heard, Kelly! And I looks over, and it's my husband, and he's going, and I'm like, what? What are you about? And he's trying to signal at me to get down, but the lifeguard whistled us to get out of the pool. So I gets out of the pool, and I'm just stood by the pool side with the 2 little ones, and he comes swimming over under water, and he was fuming, absolutely fuming, and his face was blood red. And I'm like, what's up with you? And he went, you tart, you shameless pussy. I'm like, what? Eh? What are you talking about? And he went, you're see-through. And I went, what are you talking about, see-through? He went, you are see through. I can see everything you've got, and so can everyone else. And when he said that, I thought, oh my God, that's why they're looking at me then. It isn't because I'm greatly attractive, and it isn't because of anything else. It's just they can see everything, and they're thinking, oh my God. Well, I was mortified. So we stood there, and I picked up my little girl and held her in front of me like that. And she's wiggling. Get off, she's saying, and she's trying to jump down. And then she managed to wiggle free and ran off. So I don't know how long it was until the whistle to say you can go back in the water. But when I looked at the changing rooms, it still had the sign saying closed for cleaning. It felt like an hour, but it wasn't. It must have been a few minutes. But when you're in a position where you're just mortified, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and my husband were fuming because he thought I'd done it on purpose for attention. Anyway, eventually the guy whistles, you can get back in the pool, so I just fell in it, like, and I'm under the water saying to my husband, what shall I do? And he's going, just stay there under the water up to your neck as far as you can. Oh my God, he said, oh, you are embarrassing. And I'm like, hey, it's not my fault. And then they opened the door for the changing rooms, and that's when I crawled out, and I tried to get my children to stand in front of me, but they wouldn't, because they thought it was hilarious. So when we got back, I wrote to Take a Break magazine and said, I won an holiday from you for the most embarrassing story, and while I was on the holiday that I won, I got another embarrassing story. So I told them about that one and got 250 quid. So there you go. So it was just making me laugh, because I thought, with the times as they are right now, we keep forgetting sometimes to laugh about stuff. So I thought, do some stories about some of your funny times that you've had. So that's one of them. So the sun is shining right now, but it's also snowing, and it's cold and it's warm, and it's windy and it's not windy. So it's every season all at once at the moment, and it's April the 6th. So yeah, it's not good enough to have a nice walk in the warm, because it's just going to rain, so you don't know what to wear today. Waterproof t-shirt or coats, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go now. We're going to go for a ride in the car. So bye bye.